Hey guys, good morning. I was sitting here this morning playing with my tablet. She is gone. Kim's gone and she's gone. So I'm coming. The only one in charge of me is Heidi. And she wanted to go out to potty, and now I guess she wants back in, and I'm sitting here on my tablet playing. My in a minute, please. My knees hurt today from climbing that ladder yesterday, putting that stovepipe all up and everything. And I wanted to finish it this morning, but that's not going to happen. Not with them hurting like they are. So watching the news about this hurricane, all the damage it's doing. And then on looking at this morning, a couple of YouTubes on TV, and they talked about Hurricane Harvey. And I had a lot of people asking, about different, what my perspective was on Hurricane Harvey. What we did here in particular. And turn this off. What we did, particularly us, during Hurricane Harvey. Everybody has their own story, every household has their own memories and their own things that they did. So I'm gonna walk outside because she's not gonna let me talk. And what I thought I'd do this morning, being my knees hurt, as soon as I get through feeding up, I would take you to different places and show you what was happening at different places, around this house here. Now, I can tell you right now, so if I can turn this around here, I'll do it on this wall over here. If you look, it's this wall here. And you count those logs. The water was up, completely covered almost to 6 logs. And those logs are, about 8.5 inches each. And it's almost covered up to 6 logs. And so everything below that mark in this house that I wasn't able to move upstairs. And you got to remember, everybody had left. Every household had evacuated. I was the only one left. And it's because of my stubbornness. And that's what G said, you should be so stubborn. It's so dangerous, and it was. Please, baby. I'm going to tell you something. You folks don't realize how impatient she can get. She's worse than Gigi. Well, I don't know about that. Heidi don't get mad. Anyway, seriously speaking, every household had evacuated except for me, and I didn't leave because, first of all, Daniel, I guess, was the last to leave before I did, because he was helping me trying to get the goats. Ben was here until him and G left, and everybody else had gone. Some had evacuated completely out of the area, and some had went to Kim's. So I stayed and was trying to put stuff, as I saw it coming in the house, and then we'll get back to that later, up as much as I could. Because once it actually started coming up onto the field here in the yard, it come fast. For a couple of days, the river held its own, and we'll talk about why it come up so fast. I was taking the computers up, and I was taking all the important papers out of our desk up and upstairs. And thank God, I truly thank God that my knees, and they may have hurt, I don't know. maybe you know, the adrenaline or whatever, and I didn't realize they was hurting. But thank God it was not like they are today, because I'd have trouble getting up there. But I took computers up, everything out of the desk drawers up. I took my guns all up. I took the TV up. I took our clothes out of the dresser drawers up. And as I saw the water rising, I took our entertainment center, which had a built-in electric heater in it, you know, with the fans and stuff, and the thing was heavy. I don't know how much it weighed, probably 150 pounds, maybe more, I don't know. And I carried that sucker up them steep ass stairs, excuse the language, up them stairs. I don't know how I did it. I don't know. It had to be adrenaline, because there's no way I could do it today. Or no way I couldn't even bring it back down by myself when I got ready to come back down with it. We had 2 little house cats in the house. I took both them up with the food and water. I took Heidi up and made her stay. So there was a door at the top, and I closed that door so she couldn't come back down, because the water was rising, and I'm trying to do all I can. I got to go out. I got to go out. She's gonna be very upset, and we'll finish this talk on the porch. That's just pitiful. That's pitiful. I'm for a donkey. Well, you're not a donkey. Between Hattie's legs. It's Pawpaws cat dogs. See, you see this, Woody? We're gonna be in so much trouble, son. You hear me? So much trouble, Woody. Gonna be your fault. Your fault. All right, Billy and Granny. Woody, gotta move over, son. Get me, got back up. Hattie. Hattie, what happened? What happened to us, baby? To take these little people with us. What happened? It was just me and you forever. And now, look. Woody. Kippy's okay. Woody wants to be a farm dog, too. Woody wants to be a farm dog. Break him out of your way. Son, they get your way. Break them out. Hey, while I'm out here feeding, if you'll see, this slopes down. It slopes right on back. During Harvey, when the water come up to our fence line, it kind of circled around through this low area right in behind the barn over here, because it slopes off. And we had some fence posts out there like we do right now, and a bunch of firewood. And slowly, as it kept coming up, it would float some of that off and it'd go off down. The current was going that way at that time. It was going towards that tree yonder, out through those woods. I had brought the cows from the back already into the corral. But then as it come up closer, we let them go up in the front part, up there close to where that place where Dustin has. But they were over on the, actually behind the barn dominium at that time. Lester didn't have all those corrals there at the time. So, and this was just solid water. It was just solid water. You could not have seen those fence posts. Johnny, play, son. Why do you got to be the one? It's always Johnny. Anyway, that's just nothing but water. And I got to get around feeding them babies. Johnny, get down. Johnny fell out, Heidi. Johnny fell out. He deserved it, didn't he? Johnny deserved it. Okay, river first starts coming up out of banks. It will come up through these woods, through these low areas. It starts backing up through here. If we get a lot of rain, it will flow from this direction coming out of the subdivision, coming this way. But as the river comes up, then it'll either stop flowing and start to back up. And this complete field, all this was underwater at the peak. Those fence posts would have been underwater. That's how deep it was out here. And back there at the back, it was 12 foot deep in places on that land back there. We found trees up in trees. It floated up into trees. And that's the only bad thing about it. But the thing is, listen guys, let me stop right here and give these guys some cues. Don't get in the way. All right. Pedestrians have the right of way. You know how they go. Come on. We got, at some points, got 50 inches of rain. You know, it got here and it just stalled out, just started raining. Now, we didn't get the winds and stuff and all that kind of stuff. We got some winds. A lot of damage, but not like it was on the coast. But our biggest problem was the winds and stuff and all the power outages. Hello, girl. Feed these guys. He expects me to bring it to him. That's what he expects. Well, what the hell? When the river first comes out of Banks, first comes out, it will start coming up through here. And it's so easy to tell the river's rising, even without, you know, you can come here and you can see the water actually trickling this direction. Trickling across this little road. I mean, even when this is all, the pond's all full, and you see it trickling and going that way, you know the river's still rising. And when the river starts to fall, even though it doesn't show it a whole lot, the pond will still look full, the water will be flowing back real slow, and you know the river's dropping. But anyway, it was 12 foot deep on this ridge back here. There were some trees over there had stuff had floated up in them 12 foot deep, 12 foot high. That's a lot of water, and it washed down fences. It did all kinds of stuff like it, just the water itself. But you know, that was Woody, I'm gonna be in so much trouble, son. Don't laugh. Just don't laugh, okay? It's not funny. If she drives up, Woody, what am I gonna say? I'm gonna say you follow me off. What do we have? That's what we'll say. Wasn't our fault, Gigi. Come on, Kip, get on. Anyway, we're gonna go up to the front and I'm gonna show you some things up there. We just got back. I got caught. Gigi was home. Woody was with me. We're in trouble, Eddie. We're in trouble, baby. It's Kippy's fault. We'll say it's Kippy's fault. You know, Imogene was in where the goats are now. And Imogene was actually given to Lester and me. I guess you might say at the same time the lady had passed away that actually owned her, and her roommate had Imogene down there and told Lester either one could have her. Well, I was home and Lester was at work, I guess. Steph and I went down to get her because she was real crippled up. Her feet was really horrible bad. I've never seen feet like that. Almost like she's wearing shoes. Steph and I took both of us to bring her up this driveway. We got here to the shop and then we trimmed them feet, but she could walk. But I put her in the goat pen, and she was only here a few days before Harvey hit. And I'd already, you know, the goats are down yonder where you see Billy and them at. There was a goat house, that little red building behind the barn that you see Ivan getting in sometimes and looking out. Well, that was our goat house. And it had a big shed off of it, so it had a lot of room for you out of the weather and out of the sun and stuff. But they had that pasture. And the cows are off over there about where that big red barn is, red top barn of Lester's. This is the highest point right across that ridge here on this whole place, I guess. And you see how it drops off down there toward Kim's. It drops off big time. With that, when the water's coming up out of the subdivision, it'll come up across from front of Lester's, all the way around through that low place, across our driveway, then up through this area behind our house over here, then around behind the goat pen, and flows back toward the river. So it was getting deep down here already, so it moved all the vehicles out except for my Jeep that I drove back and forth to work. It set up high. I didn't think the water would get this deep. because the river was carrying the water okay. I mean, it was slowly, maybe a little bit of a rise, but not, you know. And we'll talk about why it comes so fast when it did. But let's take you around real fast before I go back and feed the baby goats. Because I'll have to sit there with them for a while. And I'm sure she's gonna have some stuff she needs to do. But drive around here for a minute and show you. You see how it drops off over on Logan's side over there? Yeah. So all that fills up with water and it flows right on around. And I'll take you a shake. Flows right on around behind the goat house. See how it drops and how it slopes down. And it starts, oh, I knew if she saw me, I'm in trouble. It starts coming on up, slowly, on up. And then it starts cutting through here, and it kept cutting through here, and that's when I moved Imogene. And then it finally starts flowing across to that old barn over there. And I'm coming, babies. Sad thing was I had a cage, a big cage inside this little hen house, and I had a little mama chicken, and she had some little chicks in that cage. Never would, and it was up on up high. Like, well, actually, it was that cage right there. I should take it back. It was that cage right there. I had a lean-to off of it. It was in that cage right there. And sadly, it got so deep it drowned them. And it breaks your heart to see stuff like that. But everybody left. The water kept rising. When I saw it come up the edge of my fence here, I think that's about when G and all of them went on down to Kim's. And it was already deep all around us. You know, it already deep around us. And was having some trouble getting some vehicles out here. We got them all out except for my Jeep and my tractors didn't. Daniel didn't take his tractor. Had no idea it would come on up any higher like it did. Stephanie and I had bought a beehive. And I had mine right here with these on. I only had one hive at that time. And bees are active this morning. It's a little bit cooler, so they all coming and going. Anyway, I had a beehive here. And the water got up underneath it. So I said, Dan, I think Dan and Jake both had it, all three of us. We moved it. I blocked the entrance and we picked it up and carried it. It was still a small box like this one is in. And we carried it. I'd rather show you where I put it. We put it on top of that barbecue pit over behind that fort. And I said, if your little girls out there playing here, stay open the door on it. We set it right there on top of that barbecue pit. Go close that door. And I thought, you know, this barbecue pit, I knew it wasn't going to wash away. You know, it ain't going to wash away. Set it right up here. Right there. That's almost 4 foot off the ground, 3.5 foot. Well, it did. It's come on up, it washed that buddy off. And we found it down there in a fence line, but it naturally all the bees had drowned because it turned upside down in that water. And it was full of dead bees. There was losses all around us. And I told y'all about Daniel and I going down and see how low it drops off here. It was deep here, But we were able to get up there, and we got those baby goats, brought them down, and put them in this fort. And I closed the door, but they couldn't come out. We went back to try to get the mamas. You know, you don't do a couple of trips at a time, or a couple of goats at a time. And they fought and fought. They would not come off, and it was already deep in their house. It was already like up to their bellies in their house. But this down here was over their head, and they would not. They fought us, and you know, goats weighed 200 pounds. There was no way we could drag them through that water. So, and it's another sad thing about that. I had an old billy goat, an old boy goat, the daddy goat. His name was Johnny also. He was my first boar goat that I purchased. Now, actually, I traded a pig for him from a friend of mine. And he was grown. He about like Duke is out there now. There's a roll of hay out there for him, and he was up on top of that roll of hay, and I think he had 1 or 2 goats up there with him, and they were out of the water. And but water got so deep at that roll, it evidently started rolling because it was in the fence over there, and they fell off the roll and they all drowned. That fence line you see across yonder where Lester's truck is, there were 17 goats in that fence, tangled up in that fence. Sad, it'd break your heart. Lester and Tony and them were so good. They knew it was going to tear me up, so they come down and got them all out of the fence and removed them before I would see it. I saw pictures of it, and that was bad enough. And I knew some were in the fence. Oh, actually, I knew all of them were in the fence when we went out here. When they finally come and got me, Dan come down. G says, "You got to go down and get your dad." After I'd moved everything I could upstairs, this whole place was covered. You can see top of fence posts, about all you can see. I had all my hay over here like this. It had all washed away, and it was all down there in Lester's fence lines and RJ's, my brother's fence lines. It was just scattered out everywhere. Here comes the post lady. Let me go help her get the mail. I got everything I could move upstairs. The refrigerator had done laid over and was floating in the house. The freezer was floating. And I was just, it was up to above my waist. I couldn't do no more. And Heidi was upstairs barking down at me because she wanted to come down. I wouldn't let her. I had moved a little Honda generator up on the porch because I planned on staying the night. And I could have, you know, a light up there. There was no cell phone, no service, no nothing. Everything just was flooded, and Dan them come down to this barn over here in a canoe to check on his boat. Not his dad, but his mom says you got to get your dad and bring him back. His boat, his bass boat, was in there, and it had floated up to almost the top of that barn with a trailer still tied to it. But it was okay. He got some life jackets out of it, and him and Jake come across over here. I walked out. Oh, here comes Macy. She wants in that little building. "I'm coming, baby. I'll be there. You ain't got to come looking for me. You do not have to look for me." "Well, Pawpaw, you're taking too much time." She loves her time in the man cave during the day. I waited. Well, I say waited. I walked out about right in this area here, and I saw him. And I hollered what they was doing. He's checking his boat. He says, "You got to go back with me." Mom says, "You got to come back." Heidi was pinned upstairs. She was mad, upset, and she was barking. I could hear her barking upstairs. And it was almost chest deep out here. And I walked back, and the water was coming over the rails at the porch. The water was, by this time, the water's flowing fast. It's swift. And there's all kinds of things floating by from everywhere. And they brought the boat over on the outside of the edge of the porch, and I set Heidi over in the boat, and I put a life jacket on her. And I set my generator over in the boat, and we walked beside the boat, holding on the sides of it, back across here. Jake's house had already shifted on the blocks. His house was right there where Breeze is. And we went right on by, down the lane that goes up by Lester's. We got by Lester's there. Amy, the cows were gone. They were gone. And Amy and her mama Chancy were standing out there, and the water's up neck deep to them. And they just standing real still, I guess in shock, whatever. They were sensible enough not to try to go nowhere and get tangled up. I guess that's smart. They were just standing still. And Lester had a goat. I remember a goat up on the deck of his swimming pool. It was all in the water naturally, but the deck was above water, and there was a goat standing on top of it. I guess kind of in shock. And we went on by, and it got deep down going on down that driveway of Lester's, and we had to, it was over our heads, so we pulled ourselves along the fence with that boat with Heidi inside the boat. And we got almost up to the driveway, up to the road where the church was, and even the church was flooded. And a lot of folks had come out here to park their cars to get out of the rain, out of the water, and they got flooded anyway. But surprisingly, Kim's house and Buddy's house was not in the water. Everybody else's was flooded. And it's hard to imagine up here looking down toward Kim's to know her house didn't get flooded, but up here did. Deep up here. It's crazy. It's one of those wonders. But Tony had built, a friend of his had tore down hired out and tore down an old building. They brought the wood over here, some boards, and they was gonna burn them. And they had nails in them and all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff in them. And they had floated up on Lester's driveway. And it was so scary going through there, them boards floating around with nails and stuff in them. And when that flood went down, Lester had a heck of a job to clean all that mess up. But that's my perspective from my point of view. Heartbreaking to know your animals were gone. Animals that survived were almost like in shock. And you know, for days, Amy and her mom just kind of, and I think some of that stuff is what caused Chancy, the mama, to get cancer. Something in that water, I don't know. But it had to be put to sleep. But anyway, it was bad, and all your cows gone, and you know, and we stayed at Kim's. They had people coming by Kim's, won't know we don't want to be evacuated. I said, no, if we need to, we'll go out in the subdivision right across the road. And eventually we did, because we was afraid the water might come into Kim's that night. So we loaded up all the vehicles, and we drove all the vehicles out to the park out there in that subdivision. And that's where we stayed the night. Some point during the night, Daniel and Lou evacuated by an airboat to Kelby's house over at Splendora. And the next day, G and Ben went by airboat over there to the church. Where the water went all the way up to our church over there on 2090. And that's where they was bringing airboats in and out. And they went there and left. And I stayed another night at Kim's because the water was starting to recede a little bit. And I stayed another night at Kim's, and the next day it was down enough I could come home, and it was a disaster. I opened my door and look in there and stuff, just everything ruined and everything everywhere. And it was the same way at every house. Lester Barnuminium was upside down. These houses here had shifted on their blocks, well, the old houses. And thankfully, I have a log home, and solid, and all we had to do, and I say we, I think basically G and I was in shock. I truly do, if you can realize that. I don't know if we realized it, but Daniel and Lou and Kelby and Kelby's wife, Buddy and Steph, and Lester, when he had time, he was trying to clean out his barnuminium. Everybody showed up here trying to clean our house out for us. And they had a big dumpster brought, set right here. And everything that come out of that house went in that dumpster. The refrigerator and the freezer, we set it on the front porch. We washed them all out. Everything had ruined. Washed them out good and let them dry out. And 3 or 4 days later, we plugged them all in, and that freezer come back on. The refrigerator never did. The freezer come back on. It's still running to this day, just good as it ever was. But it was just a mess in there. Those guys come in, they pulled all that carpet out of the house. They went in that dumpster, all the furniture that was ruined, the mattresses that was ruined. Oh, and by the way, the mattresses. Our mattresses were new. And I went into the bedroom, and I'd empty the drawers out. So I'd take the drawers and lift the mattresses up off the frame and stack drawers underneath, keeping the mattress up out of the water. Finally, I run out of drawers, and the water got the mattresses anyway. Oh, it's a mess. But thank God, no life was lost as far as people. We lost a lot of our babies. It was weeks before those 2 cats would come back downstairs. They'd stand at the top of the stairs and look down and just stare. Yeah, it's tough. God has got us back on track, though. He's helped us get back going again. But every time there is a storm, every time there's a hurricane, lots of rain, we worry. And I worry for other people, like those guys getting all that storm surge and stuff. We don't have no storm surge here. We will get winds. We've had some few tornadoes come close around, but not right on top of us. But it's the rain and the high water that we worry about. And losing power is bad enough, but when you looking out the window and you see that water rising, and I'm gonna tell you what happened when it comes so fast when it did. Below Cleveland, where the river runs up through Cleveland, from Cleveland about a 3 or 4 mile stretch down to the river itself is low. And the railroad tracks on our side of the highway are built up 6, 8 foot higher than the road, the railroad bed. So it's a solid, it serves like a dam, basically. What can't go through the river bridge, underneath the river bridge, it banks up on that against them tracks. Cleveland had flooded. The streets were flooded, had businesses flooded. And at some point, that earth underneath that railroad tracks broke through. And for about 200 or 300 yards, the tracks were suspended in midair. All the dirt, the rock, all that was gone. And that's why that water come fast when it did. When it broke loose, it come fast. It poured down through them woods. And it took people by surprise. Those people living up close to that railroad track, they lost some of the houses were ruined. Their cars were instead sitting in the yard. Had no idea a river was coming on them. You could drive through that road later on, and there's cars everywhere in their yards. They don't normally flood, but they did that day. All right, I'm gonna cut this thing off. It's just my perspective of this storm, and I'll catch you guys later. Hope y'all have a great day. Jed, leaving again. Heidi, we're back in charge, baby. We're back in charge. You and me. I love you guys. Y'all take care. After the floodwaters went down enough, even when Lester come back home, water was still in his driveway. Gosh, it was almost waist deep, I guess. And his pig Patty met him, and he was so shocked. I think he think anything could survive. Funny thing was, when he got up to where he could see, Imogene was laying in his yard with a goat. That goat standing on her back. Imogene was in bad shape. Lester fed and watered her. She really couldn't get up. I think he afraid her legs, she broke her legs or something. But it's this stress, I think it's stress. And maybe she had the dog paddle, or what they say, or thread water, some people say. But she was whipped. He took such great care of her. Keep her down there, She loved Lester. Still does. And but it's heartbreaking to come home and all your babies are gone. And you know, I lost all my chickens, even that mama chicken with her babies. All my goats, except those 3 we saved. I found good homes. They was all boys. I found good homes for all 3 of them. I didn't want to keep 3 boy goats around here. I was pretty well heartbroken about goats. But anyway, finished my story up. About 3 days went by, 2 days, and my well man Ronnie called me and said, hey, you know, him and his mom lost like 20 cows and their bull. And he says, I found Billy. And he knew he knew all about Billy. Billy was a 2-year-old. He said, I found Billy. He's with 4 of our cows. He said, I can only find 4 of our cows. He said, I think the rest of them drowned. I know some did back here in my pasture. I found them because the water flowed from their place, kind of come across our place. And he lost his horse. But anyway, he said, I'll bring Billy back to you when I load my cows. He said, we're going to pin him and I'll bring him to you. Well, a day or 2 later, he brought him. And Billy was up. He was in the back of the trailer. And in the front of the trailer was Granny and little black Miss Black. She was just a calf. Granny was in there. It's not her mama, but they was together. And I thought, wow, they found, you know, Granny and little Miss Black. But the thing was, they had trouble loading Billy. And Granny and Miss Black went up in the trailer first. They just closed that divider gate, and then finally they got Billy in there with a guy there was claiming Granny. And claiming Miss Black because no brands. And the guy said, well, you'll have to wait till we come back. We're not going to unload this bull to get them out, but he's too hard to load. And so when he backed up to unload, I said, those are mine too. So I hop them out. And he said, there's a guy there claiming them. So, but the guy done left. He done took off. I found out later he'd been around everywhere they pinning up cattle, claiming unbranded cattle. Whether he was just going to go off and sell them or he had a place to put them, who knows? But nobody got a license number. Nobody got a driver's license or name or nothing, or license number off his truck. All they knew is a Hispanic guy, big heavyset Hispanic guy, drove a big gray dually with a big long gooseneck stock trailer. It could be anybody. So anyway, but we all, good Lord's help and good friends, we've all made a comeback. And hoping and praying it never happens again. And I know since then, when they rebuilt that railroad trestle, they've hauled in big, huge boulders and dropped all along there. And but that's why the water comes so fast. When it did finally come, it come. And Johnny, my hay man, said the water was up at his place, up above Cleveland. And he said you could just see it like that go down. That's because that thing broke, and that water just poured out of there. And that's why I come to these woods swift. I mean, it wasn't with the river no more. It was just coming through the woods, through the neighborhoods. All right, I'm gonna cut this off, get out to you guys. Hope y'all enjoy it. I gotta get back to my baby here.